Hi, this is going to be a quick video on how to learn Trauma in just a few minutes. Trauma is a simple constructed language I made just for fun, and it's supposed to be really simple. It has only 9 words, and I'm pretty sure it can be taught in about 15 minutes. So we're going to go through the basics of well, the alphabet, how to say yes, no, greetings, questions, stuff like that, and how to get started on creating your own words. So let's start with the alphabet. The alphabet has 9 basic concepts that can extrapolate into neighboring ideas. So if we look at the first one, P, we can play with that a little bit. So here we're gonna have the opposite of key. Well, of P would be its parent. So like if you have a children, then you have let's say we speak about these concepts in terms of particles. So this would be by. Um, so it would be like your children is or whatever. Like if you made a book or something, it would be by you. So it's like the children is a sub-concept of yourself. So the opposite would be something. Well, it would be to put you in a position where you are the children. So above you would be your parent. So that is key. So this is the I guess the from. If we look at in between, we can probably squeeze something. In some letters it will be harder, some letters it will be easier. This is not so clear for now, but if we look at it in terms of particle, it sort of makes sense. So this would be the instance, or like the absolute in between parent and children, even though in biology it doesn't quite make sense. But if we look at it as an equivalent of at, let's say uh, like you are between this and that, you are on this sort of edge between two things, and so if you're going from somewhere to somewhere, then this is where this will exist. So yeah, so let's do the same kind of thing for the other ones. So for outward, the opposite of outward would be inward, and this letter is K. So we're going to replace all the P's for K's to create opposites, and betweens with T, and it will change when we get to B and V, but I'll do this quickly. So for K, the opposite of inward would be, the opposite of outward would be inward. In between, you have some sort of stasis. So anything that expands or contracts, you're going to use these things. Something that is unmoving or stable, we'll use ta for stasis. Occurrence is a strange word, but in this context it means something that is absolutely going to happen. So I guess we can use must or as a particle to make this clearer. The opposite would be ko of po, and this means something that's impossible, that will never happen. So I guess cannot. And in between we're gonna have to for, I guess, a possibility. And this could be as could. So you must, could, can't. This kind of modality. This is where it's happening. So for B, the letter is a bit different. So we're gonna have a slight difference. So the opposite of a B letter is gonna be a X, and we're gonna see later why. But let's say for now we're just gonna roll with that. So the opposite of physical, I guess it would be psychological. So I don't think psychological is the perfect English translation, but I couldn't find a more accurate translation in English for the word that it actually means, but you'll see that it sort of makes sense in context. So, and in between would be the physiognomy, and I'll get to that in a minute. Physiognomy. So the reason why these letters exist and how they works is, let's say you have something that's physical that you can touch. Its concept, or like you imagining this thing, would be its psychological representation. So whenever you're going to want to talk about ideas or whatever, you're going to use Xi. And physiognomy is more about the shape of things. So if we were to draw a circle and put a dot on where we are, or what this concept that we're talking about is, so Xi would be, like outside, looking outside the circle. The physical would be the circle, and physiognomy would be like the edge of it, the in between what's outside, what's inside, this kind of thing. It doesn't really have any particle, I think, but I mean, I think this is pretty clear. So let's look at ba. The opposite of ba would be xa, similarly to the state letter of XDB. So xa means, well, the opposite of subtraction would be addition. And da, in between, is simply equal. So this could also be used for greater and lesser, but we're not going to get into that right now. For alignment, we have a bo. So bo is negative, and its opposite would be positive. So xo is positive. And in between we have do, and that's kind of like, if you use xo, it means you're absolutely sure that it's going to be positive. If you're saying bo, it's negative, and do is in between, so you're kind of like unknown about your stance on something. So we only have 3 more, and this one starts with V. So the way you do opposite sound of V is S. So it's going to be C. So C here is so synthetic in this context is something like you can create, and its opposite is something that you cannot create or that has created you. So it doesn't really have an English translation, but for this we're just going to use complex, and something of equal complexity. And in this case, since we are humans and we're talking, we're going to use organic. But if for some weird reason the concept that is talking or it's comparing itself onto something else is not organic, this will not explicitly mean organic, but it will mean, you know, something of the same complexity. Something that cannot replicate, that can replicate itself, synthetic is more for things that it can create, and complex things that cannot be recreated. This is kind of a weird concept, but for an example, like C will be used in the word for time. I'm not sure if that gives you a hint on how it works, but maybe. So I'm going to have 2 more. So the opposite of nothing is going to be, no, it's not going to be a thing, it's going to be many things, because it's much further opposite than nothing. So this is how trauma works. It's not exactly the closest negative, it's going to be the furthest negative that you can imagine. So I guess for this is going to be yeah, for the word for many. So it's going to be sa, similarly to si levi, it's going to be sa lava. So sa is multiple, and in between we're going to have 1. It could be few, but in most cases it will just mean 1. So for the last letter, it's interaction letter. This is a bit strange, but so sa la, sorry, solovo, solovo. So is I guess thoughts, communication, but non-verbal, non-active communication. It's kind of like if you're looking at something, then you're gonna use so, and it doesn't quite have an English word for it, I think, but we're gonna use communication for now, and that means seeing. So we're just gonna write to see. And here we have interaction. So this is more like to do, and between we have passive. So you can just use passive here or to be. So it's not really a passive action, it's just kind of like stasis of doing, and communication is more like inward or non-active. So okay, so now we have a brief overview of how the alphabet works. The reason of these letters, you're probably gonna ask yourself, well, they are core concepts that I found in a book called Kybalion that I mixed and matched and I built with and I've played with for many years, and I still like them. There's some of these letters that I don't use as much as others, and some letters I wish I had that could probably replace, but at this point I'm not really changing it. But I mean, if anyone wants to add to it, it's kind of like, I'm not going to be a bit like, I'm not really strict about it or anything. So okay, so the phonologic aspect of it, the way it's spoken, is kind of strange if you look at it like that, and it it looks very much like a conlang when you're gonna speak like katapa and things like this. But we're gonna see later how we can make it sound better and look better with adult speak. Oh, I'm just gonna add that here so I don't forget. So adult speak, and we're gonna get to that. So well, let's get started. So the first word that I teach anyone for trauma is oh, okay, so well, it's gonna be yes. Yes is well, pretty straightforward. So yes is gzo, and it doesn't quite mean yes in, well, like many things in trauma, it doesn't quite mean, you know, this translation I'm gonna give you, but it's pretty close. So yes means positive in trauma. So it's in most cases when you want to say yes, it's actually that you're agreeing. If you want to say no, then it's going to be bo. And these letters, they're found right. Did I miss them here? So these are your first two trauma words. If you want to say yes, just say so, and if you want to say no, say bo. So one of the greetings is, well, the main greeting that I'm going to teach you is using zo. So if you want to say hello, actually, let's learn bye first. So if you want to say bye, you're going to say, well, actually, goodbye. This will make more sense. You're going to use zo for good and pa for bye. And the reason is pa is a direction. Fuck, where is it? Okay, here. So pa is a direction for something that is going away from you, outward. But let's say somebody's leaving, then you're going to say gzopa, and basically what it means is that it's good that the person is going outward. Or, you know, if somebody's coming near you, or you want to say hello, or it's nice to see you, then you're going to use its opposite, which is going to be gzoka, and gzoka is the word for hello. Gzoka, like that. We're going to see later in adult speak that you don't actually say well, you can say gzoka, but this is like saying, like, you know, spelling every letter of a word instead of actually saying how it should be spoken. Trauma will have a lot of shorthands, and for this word, for instance, since the ka is ending, it's gonna be used like that. So gzok is for the way you would say it, you would speak it. Gzoka is more like to make yourself understood. It's more like spelling it out. Okay, let's learn a question. So I guess the first question that we're going to learn could be, well, the question we could learn like, what are you doing? So what are you doing? This implies a question. So to ask a question, you're going to use do, which is in between gzo and bo. If we look here, so this is for unknown, and it basically means that you're unsure about something. If you're going to say gzo, something like doing in trauma is vo. So gzovo or something would be like, it's good that you're doing. But if you use do, it's like, I don't know that you're doing, or I don't know what you're doing. So dovo is, you can use it in one word, but actually, like this word should be like this. We're gonna like see later why I'm merging them like this, but for now, let's just look at it like this. So the dovo is the word for what are you doing, or like, I don't know what you're doing, kind of thing. It could also be used for how are you doing, but it's closer, much closer to what are you doing. So the adult speak version of it, like the way you would actually pronounce it, would be well, you have two choices. Since it's do and vo, with both the same ending letter, you can suppress one like this, and you'll have dvo, and vo is the word for dovo, and the two O's are omitted. You can also play with adult speak a bit more, and you can do dov. This way, it's similarly to how gzoka is being translated to gzo ak, where the last letters are inverted since they're ending the word. So in this case, we'll have you know, same. If we were gonna do this with dovo, it would be like same thing as doing dov and we never have duplicated vowels, so it will be dove. Or so for dovo, dvo or dove is pretty much the same thing, and they both works. I guess dove is more casual and a bit more I don't know, kind of like it implies that you know Traumae a bit more in some more strange way. You could probably make more sentence with I don't know, like if you want to say how many, it's pretty simple. You're going to use do for a question and word for multiple. So dosa is same thing as saying how many, and this can be also shortened to I'm going to write in parentheses do a, like this. So if we're going to say how many and you want to say you want to answer one or something, well, just one would be pretty easy. So if you want to say just one, you're going to use lo for there is, or yeah, it's like the passive interaction letter that we've seen earlier, and la is lola means there's one. In this case, it's an answer. I think it would be a bit cleaner to split the words into two. The way Traumae works, I should have gone into that earlier, but it's basically lola, for instance, is like basically a function that wraps around la. So same thing for zoka and dovo. It's always kind of you know, like a kind of a system of nesting, you know, a system of nesting of concepts. So la would be, you know, like this if we were in Lisp or something. So what this means is to be one, and one has no parameters. If we had something else, to be one idea or something, I don't know, we would have psychology here, and it would be wrapped like that. In some cases, you can create more complex concepts by wrapping like this. So like Z would be, you know, well, to be one of, you know, of C. So like you would combine this into one word, and this would become one function that would wrap around this one. And this is basically how this sentence syntax works. Is the word order is like the nesting of functions into other functions that returns a kind of meaning. So yeah. So Lola is the word for to be one, and it's, I should probably write that. So to be, well, there's one. How many? There's one. And the AddleSpeak version of it, I'm probably not going to go through AddleSpeak again since we kind of covered it as we were going. So Lola in AddleSpeak will be a lol. Yeah, I think it could also be okay. So in this example, it's kind of interesting because we have two of the same vowel or the same consonant. So Lola, since if we had you know, vulva or something, we could do remove the second one, voa, and since we have loa, lola, we can remove the second one and we get loa. And this is how you do AddleSpeak for this kind of thing, this kind of stuff. Like this is perfectly clean AddleSpeak, and it sounds and it looks pretty good, I find. Anyways, so one last thing, we're gonna ask how to say X in Traumae, and that's gonna cover a few things about sentences, and that's gonna be it. And I don't know how long I am into the video, but I'm pretty sure this is a pretty quick overview of the language. So here we go. If we want to say how to say something in Traumae, we're gonna do we're gonna change the sentence order a bit. So we're gonna say, you know, in Traumae, what is X? This is closer to how Traumae works. So, you know, like earlier I was saying like how function is like this. Well, you're gonna want to think when you speak in Traumae in a way that is also, you know, working with this concept of nesting. So in Traumae would be children of Traumae in some way. So remember the first word that we learned was children. So P. So P Traumae. So basically it just means in Traumae. We're gonna ask a question here. So what do is lo. So what is X? So P-trauma, double X, is the same thing as saying in trauma, what is X? And it's interesting that it works exactly like English. But I mean, the most intuitive things you would ask in English would be how to say X in trauma. But if we're going to change the word order in English, it will still make sense. You know, in trauma, what is X? And this is one-to-one to trauma. So for some reason, but it doesn't work quite like this all the time. But we could say something more complex. Well, let's try to answer this question. So if we ask what is, let's say, oh, I don't know, something. What is something in trauma? Well, the answer would be in trauma. Something is, it's either Lado or I think V also. Lado or V. So, so let's break that down. So still again, P trauma. Something is, so Lo, Lado. Or it can, in this case we could probably use and also, because they both mean this, but we're gonna use da for equal. So Lado, da, vi. So this would mean in trauma, something is Lado or vi, and there are both words that mean something. The reason Lado means something, I can probably let you figure it out, but yeah, try to figure it out. If you have any more questions, let me know. I might do some more of these videos. We have a RC channel where we, once in a while, we just speak trauma or exchange a few words. So if you have any question, come drop by and I'll help you out. Bye.